Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Live by a code. And this is the thing with men, especially men. You got to live by a code. Understand something. Who do you allow to really control your behavior, the outside world or within yourself? If you allow the outside world to move you, you're not a leader, you're a follower. You're not a superior man, you're an inferior man. You know, you're not above the herd. You part of the herd. You know, if you follow like your fashion styles, how you treat people and everything is according to how somebody else say it, boom. Nah, you got some issues. That's why personally, I've told men, I've said this several times. Don't follow me blindly. Don't listen to listen to what I say. And then apply it. And when I say apply, you're applying it for yourself. And you don't have to apply it 100%. You got to apply it specific to you. Even like I always talk about the body game. You don't have to be some big, all I'm telling you is to be the best body that you have that's within you genetically. That's within your DNA. So for some of y'all, that's just going to be that vein popped in ectomorph. Some going to be that mesomorph. Some going to be that big, strong endomorph, right? But whatever the case is up to you what you going to do. See, I'm just giving the information. I'm just sharing the knowledge. You have to do it. So the thing with the code is like the set of principles that you live by, you enforce. Notice I say you enforce. You know, you don't have to, if only reason you don't do something because there's a law against it, or because you feel like it's violating whatever your spiritual path is, that's not really you. Now, here's the thing with it. Now, if you choose a spiritual path and consciously say, you know what, this is good with me, this is my decision, nobody forced me, I'm not doing it because my parents got into it, but it's my decision to follow this path. I'm doing it consciously with will. And then I'm gonna apply it, then boom, that's where your power comes in. See, to understand something, let me throw out some deep stuff. Now, many cultures talk about 3 levels of men. Now, in Confucianism, they'll talk about the inferior man, the superior man, and the sage. In ancient Christian culture, there was the Messiah, of course, the sage, Yeshua, or, as people modernly call him, Jesus. And I ain't going to get into why his name was actually Yeshua. And then, but then you had the next level, the disciples, that was the superior man. And then, you had the masses, those were the inferiors, Now, the thing is, we ain't going to worry about the sage level. But we're going to talk about going from an inferior man to a superior man. The key is the will, the man's will. And the will means you can make a choice. You can make a choice as to what you're going to do, what rules you're going to follow. You make the choice and then you also enforce it. And indeed, if we had a world culture where a critical mass of men were truly living by their will, you wouldn't need a police force or a very limited police force. You wouldn't need people. You wouldn't need a bunch of laws. People would just live correct at first. And I'm putting this strictly on the men, because if the men were living by a certain will, had control over their own behavior because of their own development, even the women would submit to that. That's how deep it is. That's how deep it is. Like, some people think, well, I got all this and I'm all that. But if you have the will, all the women that deal with you and come into your circle, your sphere, shoot, they gonna be on your terms. And this is bigger than just sex. This is bigger than just sex, because the woman's nature is to submit to a man. But a man has to be a man. The man is the son, but he has to be a man. And part of making him a man is a code. a code of living, a code of how he's going to do something. Certain things he ain't going to do. He ain't going to violate that code. Like, I remember, because the thing is, let me go back with women. This is a channel that focuses primarily on male-female relationships, a man developing himself to get that woman. I remember there was a woman, and it was I ain't gonna get into what she said, but I said, no, I don't mess with women under those particular circumstances, no matter what. And I've told you, I hadn't been a perfect man in life, but what I started doing when I was doing some stuff that was less than ideal, less than acceptable to a culture, I started getting out of it. So I got to a point, but I enforced it. Nobody came after me, and I wasn't doing it for, the spiritual paths weren't stopping anything. But then I decided, it's like, I ain't doing that no more. And I actually looked at a woman, and I told her, she was receptive and everything, but I said, nah, I can't mess with you under those circumstances. She respected that. But it was peaceful because, it wasn't an outside force that caused that. That was something I decided. See, one of the things many men have to do is they have to do stuff according to their will. And then they feel comfortable. Because once you develop it in yourself, and then somebody else can't force anything, because you're like, nah, that's not my code. And the thing with the code, that's like one of those things that you gotta be a worry about. You gotta be like, no matter what, this is my code. I'm gonna stick with it. Even if I have to end someone else's life to do it. And I do mean that level. That's how much your code has to mean to you. Like if you say you might have to take a life for it, boom. If you say, you know what, I might have to go to prison because of this code, boom. Like, unfortunately, and I'm going to say this word, unfortunately, you have some negative elements, some criminal elements who actually live by certain codes, street codes, when they say, you know what, they'll go to prison before snitching on some people. They ain't going to snitch on their fellas, but that's a code right there. In fact, many criminal elements around the world, they actually have more of a code than the regular society. Because they're already outside the laws of a society. They're already outside, and the only thing that can keep them straight is a code. And so I'm like, well, wait a minute. If some negative elements can use a code, that means the positive elements got one too. What if you get a critical mass of men who say, this is the code we're going to follow, and after a while, it actually changes the whole culture. That's how deep it is. But before we can even get to that point, we have to have the individual men decide, okay, what their code going to be. Like, I'll give you another one of my codes. One of my codes is I don't mess with drunk women. That's one thing. Now, if they drink a little bit and, they still can make cognitive decisions, I'm like, okay. But if they drink a whole lot, they stupid drunk, and I'm like, no, you got to sober up, baby. You got to sober up. But that was a code I always stuck with. And because of that, because of certain codes I had just dealing with women, I haven't had any like major issues that affected me in a negative way. Because there was I have a code with how I interact with women. I have a code with how I interact with people who might have issues with me. Like, they can talk all they want, but, if they right in front of me, well, I have a code for dealing with that. And every man needs a code. Every single man. Ain't no exceptions. There's some things you're going to do. There's some ways you're going to carry yourself regardless of any possible negative outcomes or somebody trying to get you to change your mind. You'd be like, nah. Because, like I say, you develop that code. That means you develop that will. And that's the difference between the inferior man and the superior man. Because the only way to keep that code in is like you have to have that strong will to say, look, I'm going to stick with this no matter what. I'm not going to like stick with it when it's convenient and then let it go. I'm going to stick with this all the way. So it's important for every man to develop a code. So that's all I have for today. Get back with y'all later. Peace and many blessings.